Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bill Anderson, coming live from the Costa del Sol, living up to its name today. A little bit breezy, but a beautiful sunny day. Absolutely delighted to be joined today by Michelle Greenwood. Michelle, we're going to tell them what you do in a moment, but welcome to Expat Radio.
Thank you so much, Bill.
Michelle, we met, it's a number of years ago actually, and it was in connection with, we didn't talk about it a lot, but your work, voluntary work I would add, with Age Concern down here on the coast. You're a busy woman, aren't you?
Certainly am, yeah. I don't think I ever anticipated to be quite so busy, but yeah, it gets busier all the time.
Yeah. Now, for anyone who knows the United Kingdom, they might get some hints from your accent of where your roots are, where your origins are.
Yeah, so originally I was from Durham, coal mining village girl. My father was a coal miner. But then I met my husband, who was from Newcastle, so yeah, moved up a little bit north. So a little bit of that still. And obviously I've been back on holiday recently, so it comes back a little bit stronger when you meet with family, doesn't it? Yeah. Newcastle.
It certainly is a kind of Newcastle. I think Dave in France was going to do a why up lab or a lad or something like that. But so, Michelle, let's just talk a little bit about yourself. In the UK, what kind of work were you doing there?
Yeah, in the UK, I left school and thought that I always wanted to be a nurse. That was my first plan. At the time when I left school, they were launching a project called Project 2000, and my idea was that I was going to be a children's nurse. And that didn't quite work out because my birthday is in August, so I had to wait a year because I wasn't old enough to join the nurse training at the time.
Right.
So somebody said to me, there's a course at college. If you get in there, you can do this medical secretary, you can do all this kind of stuff, and do that until you get to be the age where you can take up the training. So off I went and became a medical secretary and got all of those skills as well. Only to then join a year later to do the children's nursing, which I was broken-hearted. I couldn't do it. How those ladies and gentlemen who are children's nurses, I hold a badge of honour for them because the emotional stress for it is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
So I left that route, but then I decided I still wanted to work in the NHS. So I went off to university and did a business management degree, and I went into the health service more on a level of projects and troubleshooting and things like that. So yeah, it was quite lucky because at the time the government set up what they were calling a program called Improvement Partnership for Hospitals. So they twinned with some big companies in America, and also Nissan was in Sunderland at the time. And we very much took business industry and put it into hospitals and tried to get waiting times down, tried to get things running a little bit more smoothly, a little bit more financial stability. So that led me into cancer, diabetes, and lots of different highlight projects. Yeah, so all within the NHS, Bill.
Right. So, what changed? Because you don't live in Newcastle anymore, and you're not working for the NHS.
No, that's what they say, isn't it? You know, you meet the man, and he just takes you away, doesn't he? That's it. Yeah. So I met my husband. He was from Newcastle, and we met on one of those nights out in Newcastle where you spend the early hours on the quayside. So we used to have some great nights up there. But yeah, met him, and then he at the time was a property developer, and when I met him, it was that time where things were booming, as you like, within property. So he was buying and selling a lot of property in Newcastle, and the company Taylor Woodrow at the time was building a lot of property here in Spain. They contacted my husband and said to him, look, would you come over and would you try and sell some of the houses and everything over here? Not living in Spain at the time then, we were just commuting backwards and forwards, and he was spending a lot more time here. So he was an agent for Taylor Woodrow, and that got us used to Spain. We bought property in Spain up in Puerto Banús on Los Alqueros Gulf. So then I had a baby, my beautiful daughter, who is always by my side. If everybody sees us in the Costa del Sol, we're known as the Ant and Dec. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we're always together. But we had her, and we visited Spain every summer and every holiday, and we thought, maybe one time we might actually come and move here. Before we moved here, however, the property boom was still going, and we decided to move into Cyprus for 5 years. Alicia went off and finished school and everything over there, but it just didn't feel like home. We came back to Spain and settled in Spain and everything here. So, yeah, property was the key.
Right. Okay. So that was what brought you, and I guess that also brought you to this part of Spain as well. Yeah.
It did. Yes. At the time, the Taylor Woodrow developments were very prominent down in the Costa del Sol, and that was the main sort of link for my husband. But obviously, there was lots of expats buying at the time, so it seemed as though this was the ideal area for us. So we lived in a house that we'd had while 25 years we'd had it. We lived in Portobellouse, but then we felt that for us, Portobellouse wasn't home. It was more of a holiday destination for us, and it wasn't a life. So we decided to move a little bit further down the coast.
Yeah, for those that are listening, may not know the sort of geography and identity of parts of Spain, but we're on the south coast. Well, I'm in La Cala de Mijas. Mijas is sort of halfway between Malaga and Marbella, or Fuengirola, Marbella. Let's put it that way. Portobellouse, now, Michelle, that's the posh part. That's the bit with all the big fancy floating gin palaces in the harbour, and the, what do you call it, the Ferraris, hire car Ferraris, and all of that. Yeah,
I do think it's changing though. I mean, we visited, we popped down there now and again, but it's always been, Portobellouse has always been the sort of luxury area, if you like. But I do think Malaga's getting, a lot more bigger yachts, bigger cars, lots of things, and you've got the city vibe down there as well. So I do think things are changing since, the 20 years that we've been here now.
Yeah, I mean, Portobellouse has that sort of reputation, shall we say, but I think a number of areas along the coast here now are kind of upping their game a little bit, aren't they?
They certainly are, yeah.
And as a Scotsman, you have to judge the prices of things by how much do they charge you for a small beer. And
yeah, definitely. I remember the first time I had a gin and tonic with my husband in one of those bars in Portobellouse, and I think at the time, and we were talking maybe 20 years ago, it was €15 for a gin and tonic. Yeah. So the next time, as he was obviously a Geordie, he said to me, well, look, can you just have the gin and not the tonic? And he came back and he said, yeah, €15. He said, we'll not try that bargain basement anymore. You can have the gin and the tonic,
Yeah, I mean, things over these years have certainly changed quite a bit. But I don't know. Malaga City is Malaga City, and they have developed it a lot over the years. But you don't live in Malaga City, do you? Which part of the coast are you in?
I live in Fuengirola, a place called Torreblanca, just outside of Fuengirola, but Fuengirola is my home now, right. more and more,
Yeah, we were visiting some friends in Fuengirola yesterday, actually, yesterday morning, and they're a German couple, so their house is more a holiday apartment, but it's right on the front line. It's 5 floors up. Fortunately, there was a lift there. But just sitting with them and chatting from their terrace, which is frontline beach, we could see all the way to almost Benalmádena, and right down. And it wasn't clear enough to see Gibraltar, but we could have done on a really clear day. Yeah. And honestly, the views were just spectacular.
Yeah, we are quite spoiled, and I think you do have to every day sort of look out your window and think, it is a beautiful place to live, and there's so much diversity now. There's, you can go and have your breakfast and it'll cost you €2 for a tostado and a coffee, or you can go, like we were saying, and spend €20 on a breakfast. It's just, it's got a little bit of everything for everyone.
Yeah, it certainly has, and just what you're saying there, Michelle. I was doing a podcast this morning with a friend of mine, and he's running his own business. In fact, Chris was on just a couple of weeks ago, running his own business, very busy, and he said, I'm trying to spend time just to appreciate where I live, and we were just commenting about this. Vicky and I quite often, we're only like 4 minutes down to the beach from the house here, and we quite often just go down, sit on a bench, looking out to the Mediterranean, and just appreciating it, rather than being constantly caught up with doing it, and not just appreciating the place where we live.
Yeah, no, that is right, and it is, we don't work as such with volunteers and things, but life does take over, and you suddenly realise that for 1 week you've never really kind of appreciated. We're a bit of a mad lot. We've started a Sunday dippers group on a Sunday, and we've been doing it for months now. We're going to the sea for literally 10 minutes on a Sunday morning with age groups from 20 to 85, and it's been freezing cold during the winter, but it's been, it is just something to sort of appreciate. It's really, really good.
You're a brave woman, I tell you what.
I hear it's worse in Scotland if you tried up there. I didn't attempt that.
Well, yeah. I mean, I grew up on the east coast of Scotland, and I mean, although the beaches from Edinburgh would tend to be more the Firth of Forth, but they are tidal, and you're talking about the North Sea, and yeah, it's blooming freezing. Even on a hot day, the water is freezing. Yeah. I don't think the North Sea gets much beyond sort of, breaking ice. It's really cold up there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we've been reading lots of health benefits about it, though, Bill. Apparently, yeah.
So they tell me.
Yeah.
And I believe
them. Convincing you.
I'm not convincing me at all. Listen, if we quite often go, we don't really go sunbathing on the beach, but we quite often go down to the beach for a walk along it. And if I get my feet wet, that is an adventurous day for me. Because actually on this part of the coast, the water is not as warm. The Mediterranean water is not as warm as it is if you go sort of round and to the eastern part of Spain, because we do get the currents here from the Atlantic, and even on a really hot day, we had some friends visiting us from Russia, and it was a scorching summer, and Stanislav said, "Oh, the water was freezing."
Yeah, it is. We've noticed that. Some days that it can be bright blue skies and the water's freezing cold, and then other days you have grey skies and it's quite warm. Yeah, it is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've started. What is it you call your club?
Yeah, Sunday Dippers.
The Sunday Dippers. Well, oh, you're a brave woman, I tell you, Michelle. What have been the good bits for you? I mean, you lived in Cyprus for 5 years. What have been the good bits for you about coming to Spain and to this part of Spain? How has that felt?
Yeah, Spain for this part. I think we came and we were taking a sort of back step of working, and we'd managed to both retire. So Spain was the ideal. My husband loves his cars, so his idea was, we just get a car, we pop in the car, we put the dog in the back, and we can travel to France, we can travel to Germany, we can just do all of that travelling.
Yeah.
So that's in the early years. Yeah, that was definitely what we did. Every now and again, we went off on these little trips. However, more latterly, I don't think we have. But for me, I think living in Spain is just much more that it feels, the temperature's one thing, it's always quite nice to go out in the evenings and the daytime and things, rather than Newcastle where, you're more than likely expecting the rain every single day.
Yeah.
But I suppose one of the difficult things we did was that when we originally came over, a lot of my life was built around my friends and family from the UK, so
Right.
they visited quite a lot and they kept coming over. And then obviously that wonderful COVID hit, and we kind of had a bit of a realisation that life and living here we were living here, but we didn't have a life here.
Right.
We were kind of, sort of in our home, we looked to have a nice home, but we hadn't sort of engaged in the community, we'd not got out there. So after COVID, my husband joined golf societies, he got out and met friends, and myself, which we'll talk about later, but
yes.
joined a charity and, started to meet people. And since we've done that, it feels as though we're much more of a community. We integrate well with the Spanish places. We're not so much of a kind of English bar thing. We prefer to go to sort of the Spanish restaurants and things like that. So we've integrated a lot with that. So I just think it doesn't feel as stressful, and it doesn't feel, I don't know, for us, we're quite lucky, and it does give us a great lifestyle.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say, Michelle, and you've had that experience, that a lot of people move down here, and one understands quite well why they might want to move to this area, because it's a much more outdoor, potentially healthier lifestyle, because you can go be out and about, really 365 days a year almost. But a lot of people, I don't know, treat it sometimes like, let's just say Newcastle with sun, or Leeds with sun, and you wonder when they're going to stop being tourists and do what you've done.
Think that is a topic that is, and especially in sort of age concern stuff that I do, people do come and live how they would live where they came from.
Yes.
And actually the cultures are different, the way of life's different, and sometimes we don't, once we found our nice breakfast spot, and once we found out where to fuel the car and where to go for a beer, then you kind of stop integrating so much, and you kind of stay in your own sort of corners, if you like, and it's only if, you suddenly need a service that you then realise, hang on a second, yeah, I'm here and I'm existing, but actually I haven't integrated, and you've got to force yourself to do that.
Yeah, it's. I suppose it depends on what people are looking for by coming here.
Yeah.
And if what they want is the, let's not say cheap, because Spain isn't cheap anymore, but it's more economical, I think, to live here than it would be, let's just say, in the UK. That their pension will still go a little bit further down here than it would go in the UK. And if that's all they want, just better weather, a little bit more affordable for them, then fine. But people do kind of miss out a bit, don't they, on experiences, I think, if that's as far as their life in Spain takes them.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think that's also sort of, whilst things are happy and positive and moving forward, but then, some sort of crisis happens, and then you realise that it is important to be able to understand, even just a little bit of Spanish, or, understand where you can get that support from if you're unable yourself. But it is, I think, like you say, you come over and you think, all right, I'm going to just holiday, and that's fine. But it's when you need those services that aren't in holiday mode that, things go wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, and let's be honest, Michelle, I mean, especially since Brexit, most of the people who are coming over here, and people who've been here for a lot of years, are getting on in years. The non-lucrative visa is I mean, they call it the pensioners visa, because pensioners in general are the only people who can afford to come over here and not work for 5 years.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
So,
and I think you're right. Yeah, so it is that the age, and I mean, my daughter, she's 28, and that brings challenges in her own right. She works, but she's not fluent by any means in Spanish. But there is nobody that's around her age group or everything to start meeting sort of partners and those kinds of things, because, like you say, the age group of the Brits and the expats that come over are a lot more of that pension age and a lot older. So it's about, the balance of when people come younger, what is it their lifestyle's like? What's getting from it? Yeah.
Yeah, and even people coming from within the EU who have a bit more possibilities for moving and working. We're still seeing a lot of, especially Scandinavians buying down here, but they tend to be older,
Yeah.
Like me, 50 plus VAT,
Yeah, well, that's the only people that are around, Bill. You're right. You've got to choose your friends carefully. You see.
Yeah. So, Michelle, you settled down here. It feels like home, yeah.
Yeah. And now, yeah, it's definitely home. Yeah.
And you decided, and I'm not going to say very much about this, but you decided to offer your services to Age Concern. How long ago was that?
Yeah, so it was just probably about 3 years ago now, I think. Yeah, just as we came out of COVID, yeah. I thought, I really need to start networking with some people and start to build my relationships here. So yeah, it was the start was just a few hours in a charity shop, and it's always a laugh within the family now. It's my husband's divorced too, when widowed to Age Concern, and even my dad had a little comment last week as well. Yeah, I think I live for Age Concern now. But yeah, so it was a few hours in the beginning, and then I started helping doing some fundraising. But then Age Concern here is, it was a group of really genuinely helpful people, a small group who established it. But it's just grown, and more people need help, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So my role ended up helping them with some of those processes and a little bit of their structure and everything like that. So yeah, it's got a lot more demanding.
Yeah, I mean, for people who are listening, I don't know, from the States, they may not be aware of what Age Concern is. I mean, it was fundamentally a British-based charity, yeah?
Yeah, that's right, yes. It was originally it was called Age Concern in the UK, and they latterly changed their name to Age UK.
Right.
But we got a license here in Spain, and there's a few other branches around Spain as well. And we got a license to operate and help here in Spain. So it's based for, and the charity in the UK and in Spain is for over 50s with a decent level of English. So we don't just do it for British people.
Right.
We have Scandinavians, German people, different nationalities, but they must have a standard of English to allow them to sort of access the services. But so it works, and we work with different organisations as well, but the majority of it is about helping those people at over 50s. Yeah. And we always have this thing of, people say, I'm not old enough for Age Concern. Yeah, we can have somebody that's just celebrated their 100th birthday, but yeah, they're not old enough for Age Concern. So it is always a battle to try and see how we can get the younger people in and get started in that sort of journey with us, so that when they are a little bit older later on, that they've already accessed some of the services, they know what we're about, and they've helped us along the route.
Yeah, so on a sort of, we're going to talk about getting old in Spain, because I think you've got some really interesting things to say about that, Michelle. But at a very simple level, what are people getting out of Age Concern? Is it a kind of social context?
Yeah, we've got a balance of two things, and it's one of my motivations is constantly to try and sort of educate people a little bit more about what Age Concern does. Age Concern, if you don't really understand the charity, is about social interaction. It's about offering coffee mornings. It's offering road trips. It's trying to make sure that anybody that's isolated and living alone has somewhere to go and interact. The more you start to understand Age Concern, it's a lot more than that. It's about that welfare service as well. It's about helping people go to hospital, helping with translation, helping with different projects. So I always say we've got a balance. We've got the social side, which is really important for people's mental health, but we've also got the kind of crisis management and the support when things go wrong, and people need help. Right. So yeah, we're a wide range of services.
But even the social side of things is it's more than just about sitting down and having a coffee, isn't it? Because if people are not sure about something, like, I got a letter from the council, somebody's going to be there to say, well, what you have to do with this. It doesn't really matter at that level if they speak Spanish. Somebody will be able to say, oh yeah, I had one of these, and what I had to do was this, or I need to renew my we call it the padrón in Spain. The padrón is just like the municipal register. Or I need to renew it. What do I do? And somebody will be there and say, oh, well, it's easy. You just turn up and that, and you take this with you, and it's all fine. So yeah, there is a social side to it, which is really important. but quite sort of accidentally, people are going to be getting just day-to-day help with living in Spain, aren't they?
They do, definitely. And there always is volunteers on hand at any of the sort of social events that we have to do exactly that, Bill, to help with any of those queries. We also run sort of seminars on different topics. We do sort of fact sheets and things on, in Spain, one of the things, and I presume other countries as well, one of the things that is often a risk for some of the elderly is around being scammed or being pocketed or those kinds of things. We offer advice to try and keep them safe, and actually, and also not to think that if something has happened to them that they are so frightened to tell anybody because they feel embarrassed that it happened to them, but actually to create that environment for people to have that chat in a safe place where, nobody's going to be judged. They're just going to help, we want to do those things. So yeah, we do that. And a couple of months ago, we recently launched our wellbeing services as well. So we're trying to keep people sort of a bit more active and a bit more healthy. So we've got chair aerobics exercises and we've got Pilates, and all of these things are run for free for age concerned members as well. So we don't take any money for those. We've got fantastic volunteers who support us that are trained and qualified. So that not only do they get that advice, but they can talk to people on the different activities and things as well. So it's a good fun bunch as well.
Michelle, we're going to take a short break. And we'll be back in just a few minutes. We're going to listen to the brand new single from Take That, All Wrapped Up. Here we go. Welcome back. I'm Bill Anderson, coming live from the Costa del Sol with my guest today, Michelle Greenwood, who moved from Newcastle and the National Health Service to the south of Spain and age concern. Michelle.
Sounds like quite a journey, that, doesn't it?
It is quite a journey. But actually, I know from conversations that we've had, Michelle, your experience of working within the NHS, I think brought something very important to your voluntary work with age concern down here. You're a very organised person. You think things through. And you knew that, well, you have seen and you participated in the raising of funds down here. And it's like, we need to put these to great use, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And I think, whilst it's great to, do these events and everything and, you get the buzz when it's fully booked and you bring the money in, it's also important to make sure that money gets spent on what you took that money for in the first place. So now we've been successful with raising some funds, and now the hard work begins, where we now start to apply that money to the community and how we sort of spend that for the best use for the money that we've raised.
Yeah, and this is I mentioned earlier that we do have, from the expat perspective, we do have an aging population. And when people get old, sometimes one partner, husband or wife dies, they're on their own, then, health problems develop, there are language issues, there's a lot of complicated things that people face as they get older, aren't there, Michelle?
Yeah, there certainly are. And like you said, Bill, one of the, and we chatted about before, you move to a different country, you don't always kind of have the view that, something's going to go wrong. And like you say, you come over and life's great, you're spending all this time with your partner, you go to the nicest restaurants, but then when that partner's not there and you're suddenly sitting at home and you sort of isolate yourself and things start to get an awful lot more complicated. And often these people, they might have family in the UK, but they've lived in Spain for so long that decision to go back to the family is often not one that they want to take. They want to stay and they want to still have their life here in Spain. So like I say, age concern for those is, a lifeline, whether it be one of our voluntary translators helping them with an appointment or a translation of a letter or something, or whether it's a driver that takes them to a hospital appointment where they wouldn't be able to get to themselves. We've got lots of different roles of volunteers within the organisation that help with, almost any need that they have.
Yeah, and in terms of hospital, I mean, we have a very good National Health Service here in Spain. And I know that some people will have private health care if that's affordable to them. But the hospitals are usually the state hospitals are usually quite a distance away. And even getting 20 kilometers or 25 kilometers to the main hospital, which would be the Costa del Sol Hospital in Marbella, can be very difficult for people by public transport, and they need to access these services sometimes.
Yeah, it is difficult, and it's also difficult for us to get because these services are offered for free. And it is often difficult for us to even get volunteers, because you know yourself, you head to a hospital appointment and your appointment time is 10 o'clock, but actually, it's 6 o'clock by the time you get home, and often the volunteer doesn't mind driving you to an appointment, but then to have to sort of stay around with people, it is a big ask. But yeah, a lot of those hospitals are not on the public transport route, and it is really key, our transport services, for a lot of people.
Right. So that's one area, particularly affecting sort of elderly people. We've already mentioned that, and I've seen this in recent years more and more. One of the partners dying, the person being left on their own, and what happens when they get sick.
Yeah, definitely. And this is the thing, because we've seen recently a few incidences where we have had people who live on their own, no family around, and one particular lady unfortunately had an Alzheimer dementia situation, and she was out in the streets in the night time. The police were bringing her back home. Nobody really knew. The neighbours helped a lot, but it got to the point where the situation was too difficult for the neighbours. The neighbours were starting to worry that something was going to go wrong. So again, it was a nice situation for us that we worked with Alliance, another good charity down here, and worked with Aged Care, and the three organisations came together to make sure that lady had a safe space to go to.
Right.
And the issue for that lady, unfortunately, is that she is a resident here in Spain. She's got her own property here in Spain, but now she needs that extra care now, and that will come through the social services part of here. But the paperwork and the time to organise those kinds of things is a lengthy process. So, we offer support like other organisations as well. But it was a nice feeling that the three charities came together and made sure she had a safe space to be until all the paperwork and everything could get sorted out. And that's not an isolated case, Bill, unfortunately.
No.
We have those kinds of things often. And I think, like you say, the NHS the Spanish health service over here is very good. But where maybe it falls a little bit is when you're not having a service in a hospital, and maybe you need that extra support at home by a carer or a social services kind of thing. That service then isn't as good. We don't have the access like you would have in the UK or anything, and people often don't sort of plan for, maybe we might need a care at home, we might have to pay private for some of these services, and then unfortunately they get into that crisis situation where they're at home alone, they've got nobody to look after them. It is quite a scary situation for people when they get older.
Yeah, and this isn't the criticism of the Spanish system, but I think it's a reality that what we used to refer to, because I worked, amongst other things, across health services in the UK, is continuity of care. That doesn't really happen in that way here. I mean, when my mother was in hospital, they didn't let her out until she had been seen by social work, and they had organised some kind of home help for her. So once that was in place, then they let her out, and the social services kicked in there. But, in Spain, there's still a big reliance, isn't there, Michelle, on family?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, that's, in some respects, that's a great thing, A lot of the Spanish families and everything, they have daughters, granddaughters, they, build an extra room on a house, that's fine. But when you've come over, like you say, and there's you and your partner, and so unfortunately something happens to your partner and then you're left alone, then it becomes difficult. One of the things that we've just put into place for Age Concern this year, and it's a simple process, but obviously it doesn't happen, is we put in what we call a hospital to home service. And that's
Yes.
to try and help us, instead of being sort of reactive, to be a bit more proactive. So if somebody's going into hospital and they're having an operation, then we can do a home assessment and find out, have they got any family at home? Have they got any friends? Is their home safe for them to return home?
Right.
Do they need any equipment? Those kinds of things. And we're offering that service to the charity to hopefully try and ease a little bit of that. We can't provide the care, but at least it gives us an assessment of what those people are going home to. And we know that, if we don't see that person or something, we can give them a call and find out how they do, and especially if they haven't got anybody else there. So that's a really good thing, yeah.
Yeah, and are you able to help with any sort of equipment for their home?
Yes, we are. We've got an equipment loan service as part of Age Concern, and we rent wheelchairs, beds, commodes, lots of different equipment, and that is, a minimal cost. I mean, some of those things are like, €5. It's not an onerous expense, but yeah. And then we also, because of the contracts that we work with, if people want to purchase equipment, we can also broker that with them and help them out with that, and that gets delivered to their home and everything as well. So, yeah, we've got a good service. We're just looking to develop that a little bit further because we're getting more and more requests for different things. So, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I know we had a laugh about it, but I think you were talking about a hospital bed into a flat. And these things are heavy, aren't they? These hospital beds.
Oh, they certainly are. Yeah, and it was a situation where, and this is where this hospital from home service is helping more. If somebody's returning from hospital and they do need a hospital bed, but it's 10 floors up and there's no lift, and these beds are big, and most of our volunteers are on their later stages of life as well as an age concerned charity. So you can imagine some cartoon characters trying to do these, but with this hospital from home service, it enables us to look at what their home's like. So is it feasible for us to get one of these beds in? If not, is it, can we order from a company that somebody will sort of bring it dismantled and they can put it up? And the bed, funny enough, just recently again we linked with the Lions, and they had a client who needed a hospital bed. So our hospital bed at the moment having some good use with a client at the moment. So but the equipment is important.
I think as well, that it's sad to say a lot of people have lived here for many, many years and haven't really made the effort to speak Spanish. So even if they can find the right shop to to look for equipment, they can't necessarily explain their the situation. It's complicated.
The thing is as well, Bill, it's at that time as well, they're in crisis mode, they're upset themselves, they really, not feeling great, especially if they live on their own, their partner's worried about them, and just having somebody to be able to do that for them, is such a great help. We had some lovely thank you letters last week, which we don't often get. Thank you letters are a thing of the past, but we've had a few nice thank you letters recently from people who had help like these, and old pen and paper on some nice forget-me-not letterhead. Very nice.
Yes. Yeah, that's that. It's not why you do it, but it is nice to know that you've done something good for someone and it's helped them, and yeah,
definitely.
So where do you see, I mean, do you kind of feel sometimes that you're a substitute for the Spanish system for elderly expats, or how does it feel, Michelle?
I don't think we're a substitute. I think what we should be, and what we're working really hard on at the moment, is to be that kind of, that stepping stone from one to the other, and that kind of organisation that allows people to understand what services are available within the Spanish services, and just kind of be that bridge where a little bit of extra help's needed, and it is about ensuring people know where to get help from. I mean, we've embarked on a project to look at Alzheimer's and dementia, and we have linked with the Lions, but also AFA, which is the association over here in Spain for help with families and people with Alzheimer's, and that is a Spanish organisation, and they've come forward, wholeheartedly to be partners with us, and yes, the language barriers are difficult on some things, but especially for people with dementia, some of the activities are equally the same, whether you're Spanish, whether you're English, German, It's a bit like when you used to take small children on holiday and the first game they used to play was Uno because nobody could speak to each other.
Right.
But they all knew numbers and colours and, it worked. But, so trying to just give that communication to people to allow them to understand what services are around is a lot better, yeah.
I think I'm hearing in the background the man that comes round to sharpen the knives, yes?
I was going to say, I'm not quite sure what's happening. It's a little bit worrying. In our street in the past 2 days, this gentleman just seems to keep going round and round, yeah. A bit of a bizarre Spanish service, but yes, the knife sharpening man is en route somewhere.
Yeah, but it is a blast from the past, isn't it? They come round with their whistle and... I saw one in our village just a week or so ago, and he had his grindstones connected to his bicycle. So he was turning the pedals on his bicycle and sharpening people's knives, and people come down, and some of the restaurants bring their knives down and get them sharpened.
Yeah,
it's quite a blast from the past.
I'm not sure we'll get away with that one in the UK. I'm not sure there'd be a take up in the UK, but yeah, it's actually quite a nice tune as well. Probably not best when you're doing a radio show, but yeah.
No, I was listening to it and thinking, I know who that is. So Michelle, really, your couple of mornings a week in the charity shop has really converted into something quite different, hasn't it?
It certainly has, yeah, and it's a bit of a joke within the family, but I do enjoy every minute of it, and it's good, it's good that we are sort of moving forward, and there's lots of excitement in projects and events and things. The other thing to quickly say, Bill, is one of the things that we have done recently is we've linked with a group of females called the Fuengirola females, and they're a much younger group of people who are now coming into age concern and supporting us with lots of skills that were needed, like
Wonderful.
Physiotherapy, nutrition, and everything, which is fantastic for us. Yeah. So we're emphasising a little bit more on the well-being rather than getting to the point where we have crisis. We want to try and do a bit of prevention.
I'm being I'm stereotyping here, but if you have an elderly couple and the woman dies, quite honestly, some men don't even know the direction to the kitchen. And I know this from people that we've known. My own father-in-law, he doesn't know where the kitchen is in his house. He's a widower. So, even just being able to get some advice and gentle direction for some men, and I'm not saying, no men can cook, but a lot of them just don't know where to start. And
you're exactly right. And funny enough, we had that conversation at one of our coffee mornings recently, and one gentleman says, well, we don't need any help with cooking. And the wife said, yeah, but what if something happens to me? And he went, oh, now then. It was like, then it was a whole different lens. Yeah, so that is something that we're thinking about doing, because we can use the facilities of St Andrew's Church, who have been another fantastic partner for us, and they've got a lovely kitchen and area that maybe in the winter time we might develop some of those nutrition programs and help people just understand a little bit better.
Yeah. So Michelle, you stretch from Benalmádena through Fuengirola to Mijas, which is an enormous area, isn't it?
It is, yeah, we do. And the thing is as well, we will never sort of not help anybody.
Oh, Michelle has
areas as well, but we always try and get them to come down and see one of our welfare officers. So yeah, it is a huge area.
So if people would like to get in touch with you, hopefully because they're young and fit and have some free time and want to contribute, how would they do that, Michelle?
Yeah, we've got a Facebook page which is Age Concern Fuengirola, Mijas and Benalmádena, and we've also got a website, And on both of those, you'll find contact numbers for me, for the volunteer officers. But it also tells you, we've got quite a big events program now that, we offer sort of restaurant meals and drinks and things like that. So there's lots of things that you can either get involved socially or you can get involved in the charity. So we would love to hear from anyone,
Yeah. Michelle, it's been really it's been lovely to. Well, I can see you. People can't see you, but I can see. It's lovely to see you again. And really just to chat to you about where things are going. So, do you manage to get any weekends off, Michelle?
Well, I am quite strict actually. Normally, from Friday evening, Saturday, Sunday, I try and have that off. Apart from the dipping on a Sunday.
Good. Michelle,
but I do try to do that.
That's great. Thank you so much for joining me today, Michelle. It's been lovely to speak to you, and all the very best with the work that you're doing. We've had a lot of listeners in Spain. Please get in touch with Michelle if you think you can help. Take care, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend, and I shall be back next Friday. You take care now.